Alright, hey guys, this is Zane here, back at it with another day of watching Monster House every day with friends, because I want them to. And I mean, as Casper said yesterday, I haven't been watching it with friends every day, but I'm still watching the movie itself every day, and it still counts. And here today I have my friend Liam, if you want to do a little intro for yourself.
Yeah, my name's Liam. I don't have any knowledge of animation or anything like that, but I am an English major, or a budding alcoholic. And I don't know, I saw a lot of gothic elements in the movie.
All of that counts for something. So we'll just get right into it, and I gotta ask who your favorite characters are, or single character if you only have one, and why they're your favorite.
Uh, I don't know, maybe a toss-up between DJ and Nevercracker,
Okay.
because DJ's the hero, he's portrayed really good light. Uh, he has the hero's journey as you go in fucking depth.
Did you watch that one?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. He's kind of relatable to me, I guess. And Nevercracker, he really just pulls the sympathy, pulls the heartstrings for you.
I thought you were gonna stop at the word simp there for a second. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No. Maybe Nevercracker's a simp. That could be one of your podcast episodes. But nah, he's got a tragic backstory, and he's a decent red herring for the villain of the movie at the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
Like this really shitty old man, but he's actually protecting all the children in the neighborhood.
And you are the first person to pick a main character as one of their favorite characters so far.
Oh God, what have people been saying?
We've got two people that say Bones is their favorite character.
What?
Two people that say Nevercracker is one of their favorite characters, and Casper's favorite character was the dad, which is probably the most Casper thing to say. But
yeah. I don't know, I might change mine. Mine might be the basketball.
I mean, basketball doobie. He's pretty good. He's like the Wilson from Castaway. It's the same brand.
Yeah,
So if you can count that.
He really performs whenever he's on screen.
He really slam dunks a performance.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, so that just watch you because you watched it tonight with us. It wasn't the first time you've seen the movie, right?
I don't know. I watched it pretty recently. I ran into you on the bus and talked about what movies we were watching. And this was when you were watching Monster House every day for the first time because they were taking off Netflix.
Yeah, that was
And
last
you told
year.
me, man, you gotta watch it. And I went home and watched it for the first time since it came out, like however long it came out ago.
Yeah, like 14 years ago, roughly.
Yeah, jeez. That was an experience. That was way better than I remembered it.
Makes me seem like I'm some crazed lunatic peddling this weird animated movie on the bus to random strangers. Like, man, you gotta watch this.
That was it. I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, have you seen Monster House?
I mean, it's not it's not too far off the truth, but you know, I like to imagine it don't sound that crazy. But so you did watch it as a kid. Do you remember much from watching it as a kid, or is it one of those long lost memories?
God, I remember the characters looking weird, but they're really not that bad. Like, I remember the animation being a lot worse for whatever reason, which doesn't make much sense because I was a child. But other than that, I didn't really remember Nevercracker's whole plot line with, you know,
Constance.
Constance, and the tragic part of it. I kind of just remembered the base outline of the story.
Okay. Yeah, that seems to be the case for most people. It seems like this is a pretty non-remarkable or memorable movie in a lot of particular ways. So that's
there
okay.
There just wasn't anything specific that stuck with me.
Yeah. And so I guess going off of from watching it last year, did it get any worse this time around or any better?
I feel like the first time I watched it, like the year ago or whatever, since I watched it when I was a kid, I had super low expectations going in, and I watched it alone. So I actually came out really pleased because it was enjoyable. It wasn't there was no egregious errors or anything. The animation's good actually
Yeah.
in a lot of parts. I don't know. Watching it tonight, it was kind of memey, but
Yeah.
still really enjoyable. I
I,
think it's a good movie.
yeah, I mean, when it comes to watching anything with friends, it always gets a little bit memey. But like,
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot. When it comes to watching movies with friends, a lot of the memey parts come from the movie doing something super super stupid. But there wasn't inherently a whole lot of that with this. Like,
No, yeah, this wasn't like watching a Nick Cage movie where your brain stops working for a second because of something the movie did.
yeah, there's a nice amount of like consistency, and yeah, I mean, if you aren't the stop motion, it doesn't look inherently the best nowadays, but I mean, it works for what they did, and the characters are interesting
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
enough.
you're pretty much laughing at what you're meant to be laughing at.
Yeah,
There is a lot of humor in the movie.
yeah. Bailey mentioned that the yeah, it was Bailey. He mentioned that a lot of the out of anything in the movie that falls flat the most, it's the cops, and they're
Really?
like he thought they were some of the least funny parts of the movies, except for the rookie cop was pretty good.
Funny.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
they aren't meant to be the best part because they're a form of authority, you know?
yeah. I mean, they do get eaten up pretty fast, so. But I mean, if that's like the biggest flat part of the movie for someone, that's not too bad, I gotta say. So.
Yeah, it's a pretty short part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
not a major part.
yeah, that's true. Were there any parts that you didn't really enjoy and wish they'd rather like take out or expand upon a little bit? Because the movie is like really short, all things considered. So is there a certain, if you were to go back and let's say be the one to work on the film, would you expand on certain parts, add certain things, or take a little bit out? It's a bit of a long question, but
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what I would want to add. It's not my project or anything. Maybe I didn't like Bones, but I don't think he should be removed or anything. He's just kind of sketchy and creepy.
yeah.
Maybe more of Skull.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's funny. He could have had a possible interaction with the house. It's not necessary, but it could have been interesting, I suppose.
Yeah. And like there's a graphic novel that came out with the movie that's supposed to be sort of a prequel, and that focuses on Bones and Skull. I don't have it, and I haven't been able to find any ways to read it, but it apparently goes into like them being kids and stuff and having interactions with the house. And there was
They
also
do look kind of like DJ and Chowder, respect.
oh my, they totally do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the one like tall, lanky, and then the one that's like wider.
Yeah.
I didn't think about
pretty
that.
Basic comparison. But
Yeah.
It's there, kind of.
Yeah, and then because Skull and Bones they're both in a band together, even though it doesn't really seem like that's the case, but they are.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's very clear.
Yeah,
in the
because
movie.
Z has a shirt that says Skull and Bones, and she was listening to their music.
Oh.
So I didn't even make that connection until fairly recently and doing some stupid reading. So, but like they don't make that really apparent in the movie at all, especially in when Z ends up with Skull at the very end. It doesn't seem like they know each
Yeah,
other.
The interaction they have makes it seem like Skull is nothing to Bones.
Yeah. And then
I didn't know that.
I believe there was also supposed to be some sort of bestiary that Skull was gonna have, and talk about like other examples of monster houses. So there was potential that they could have expanded on a lot of stuff, but I would assume budget cuts most likely got in the way.
Yeah, I don't know. Even with the idea and the property, if you can even call it that, you could expand on it easily. There's so many different kinds of buildings that you could make look cool if they were possessed by a human soul or
Hmm.
whatever was going on here.
Yeah. So going off of that, do you think this could be a movie that would be able to be revisited today in like either a sequel type thing or a reboot in a maybe even a live action type way?
Um, I don't know because I don't really know how successful it was.
It was decently successful. I think it made on a 75 million budget. I think it made either like 120 or 150 million. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, but I'm just not sure what the reception would be if it was announced that that was happening. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of people would not really remember the movie until it's shoved in their face like that, and
Yeah.
they'd be like, "Oh my God, what the hell? Why are they making a second one of this?" But I think there's a lot of potential for more stories. They wouldn't even have to use the same characters, really.
Yeah, I they could even since the construction working in the back lot was all to do with like apartment buildings, it could have something to do with like I don't know, possessed apartment buildings or something of the sort, but yeah, I don't know. Hard to say.
Or or use the same characters. DJ and Chowder go to college.
Oh,
Fucking
Monster College. The
monster.
whole college comes to life.
Multiple buildings.
There you go. Let's see, what else do we got here? Oh, so mentioning that you're an English major, is there any? This is a super broad question. Like, does this remind you specifically of any piece of literature by any chance? I know there's probably not a lot to do with monster houses, but like, when it comes to, I don't know, maybe kids or uh, things that involve tragedy and trauma, like this might.
Well, it just, I think it definitely falls into the gothic category, the theme of the gothic, uh, which covers a lot of stories where you could kind of make comparisons. Like, it's a really weak comparison, but it's just like, this is kind of a haunted house, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it definitely counts.
the haunted house very much come alive. So a classic example is Castle of Otranto, which is one of the first self-defined Gothic novels, where it's centered around this great big haunted mansion with an evil man in it. But this movie kind of subverts and combines specific Gothic themes, like the haunted house and the monster are typically two different entities in a Gothic story.
Yeah.
Like, you'll have the haunted house where things are shifting and changing inside of it, and it's difficult to tell what's going on. But at the same time, you'll have some kind of monster in there too, antagonizing our heroes. But in this one, the house is the monster and the haunted house, which is it's pretty cool to combine things like that.
Yeah, it is. I like that a lot. I never really thought about it that way, like in regards to like a haunted house sort of movie or a monster movie, because usually it's kind of one or the other, and I don't even know if I'd consider this to even be a monster movie anymore. Thinking about it, it's more of like a haunted house type movie, but
Yeah, she's not the house, the woman Constance. I wouldn't call her a monster,
mm,
but uh, in a traditional sense, it looks like a monster. It's called Monster House,
yeah,
but I would definitely think of it more like a haunted house, kind of.
yeah. Because like yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me with like haunted houses is that Eddie Murphy movie, and that's a definitely not
I,
anywhere close to this one. I think it's the Disney one or whatever. It's a classic. If you haven't seen it, I wouldn't actually recommend it, but you know.
okay.
But that one has like an actual house that has ghosts in it, so I think
Yeah,
it's based on the
another.
Disney ride. If you've ever, I don't know if you've been to Disneyland or not.
I think I think I've been on that ride.
Okay.
Speaking of ghosts, that's another important aspect of something that's defined as Gothic. The supernatural is a huge uh, part of that definition. And there's definitely ghosts in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's proven to be ghosts, so it's not anything preternatural. It's a big ghost house.
Oh wait, what's the difference between preternatural and supernatural?
Oh yeah, preternatural is kind of throughout the story, it appears that there are supernatural things happening, and that's the explanation, that there's ghosts or hauntings or curses, and then at the end of the story you learn that it's all it's kind of man-made. It's explainable by
Oh, okay.
science or something else. So that's also found in Gothic fiction.
Okay.
But it can be a powerful storytelling tool, kind of a twist at the end. But there's other ways to do twists, such as Nevercracker not being the villain, which is interesting.
And like, yeah, I guess if you went into this movie totally blind and didn't watch any of the trailers or something, you'd probably right off the bat think Nevercracker's it, and like he's the bad guy. But then it's hard nowadays not knowing how a lot of movies go and that the house is actually like alive. So I wonder what like watching the movie for the very first time was little knowledge how that would go.
Yeah, I think he's definitely presented as a red herring for the audience to think that I don't know, he's the big contender. But it's interesting because I noticed at the start of the movie the house is shown as pretty foreboding. It's contrasting all the surrounding landscape, and it's the first antagonistic presence that the audience is subjected to. And then you're subjected to Nevercracker in the house as kind of a villainous character. So you are presented the house as an antagonistic presence before you're presented Nevercracker.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Which
That-
I might be looking too
No,
far.
they it's totally true though. Like the girl getting stuck on the lawn and the house itself, like in the establishing shot and stuff, is like there and very drastic.
Yeah. So
And
Nevercracker was never meant to be the villain. Well,
Yeah.
he's presented that way, but yeah, I think watching the movie for the first time, might be surprised by the house. It's kind of schlocky in a sense, but it is a kids movie. So
Yeah. Do you think they did a good job of trying to make it like a family-friendly animated kids movie as well as trying to be horror at the same time? Or is it way too leaning towards one side for it to be even considered a horror?
That's a good question. I don't think I'd consider it a horror. I think it's a good children's horror, which is a weird split in trying to define the horror
Yeah,
genre.
it's like two opposite ends of like, if you're putting like
Yeah.
movies on a spectrum where you have kids on one side and horror on the other side and everything sort of fits in between, action maybe's down the middle, then like two totally opposite things that are somehow like they try and connect.
Yeah, the only things that are like kind of frightening are they do dive into the uncanny valley. Their facial expressions where it's very close to human,
Yeah.
but it's slightly off. Mostly when they're emoting in an exaggerated manner.
Yeah.
Like I noticed when Bones was laughing, he like
Yeah, that it is a little scary.
Right.
Especially because they don't give everyone perfect teeth.
Yeah. Interesting decision. Realistic, I suppose.
Because
But I don't-
Nevercracker's got like none.
Oh yeah, Nevercrackers needs a new dental plan or something. But I don't think I'd constitute it as horror. I guess I think it's a good horror for really young kids. I guess it could be horror, an introduction to horror possibly.
Yeah, because I don't remember being scared seeing it as a kid, because I think I did see it in theaters. But pretty much, if you're like scouring any reviews and stuff online, a lot of people are like, "Man, I don't remember it being this dark and kind of creepy." So
There's definitely dark themes,
Yeah.
especially God, Constance's skeleton. in the
Yeah.
basement.
actually, just straight up showing her like entire dead body in the basement is a
Yeah.
big surprise.
incredibly dark. I mean, we think the main character has killed some old man at the beginning. It's it's definitely not what you would immediately think of as child friendly, but at the same time, it is presented as safe for kids to watch, obviously.
Yeah. And then, so quickly, I know you mentioned like not knowing a whole lot about animation, but they do a lot of really interesting like camera techniques, as they would in like
Yeah,
other
they,
movies.
yeah, it's like they're treating it like they're shooting with actual cameras, which is really cool.
And I had
Like,
no idea how they actually did it until I watched the behind the scenes. But the software that they use, they like place a camera there, and then they have like a tool thing that has the same buttons and everything as if you're using an actual film camera. So they, in a sense, actually used a real camera to record within this whole rendered environment, which is really cool.
wow. Yeah, I'm not well versed at all in cinematography or animation, but there there was a couple of cool shots to me, like from the reflection of the ambulance driving away. You see DJ looking in. That just it felt kind of outside the realm of what animated movies do
Mm.
or used to do. Maybe they've stepped more into that realm.
Yeah, I haven't actually
But
like this is one of the few animated movies that I've paid a bunch of attention to. So for all I know, it's probably done a whole lot. But for I think 2006, being I think is still the first and only motion captured animation movie that follows a totally original script.
wow,
So, but
they did a good job. I still haven't looked at what the actors looked like in real life when they did it.
they look pretty close to everyone
Yeah,
here, which is
yeah. That,
surprising.
I don't think I knew it was mocap until this year.
Yeah, they did motion capture and then actually had real clay models that they based all the 3D models off of so they could get everything to look bright. But they ultimately motion captured and then just skinned it onto like the skeletons. But they did.
Wow.
It's pretty involved for what I would have expected, but I think it works out in the end. I don't know if I would have a feeling Polar Express might have been mocapped, but that movie falls a little steeper into Uncanny Valley than this one does, I think.
Oh yeah, the characters look really good for a lot of the movie. There are just moments where they don't look as great. I think Z Elizabeth
Mm.
is the least consistently good looking character in that
Yeah,
sense. For whatever reason.
yeah,
I,
and she's
I
also the pretty much the character that looks one to one with what the actor looked like, which is kind of funny.
really, I
Yeah,
feel kind of bad saying that.
it's Jake Gyllenhaal's sister, Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I have
Uh,
no clue.
but which me also being so one to one translated, it doesn't look nearly as good and falls into Uncanny Valley that way. But with every other character, they exaggerated features, and that worked out really well, and actually like made them look a lot more cartoony. So it worked with everyone else, but they just kind of didn't do it with her for some reason.
Ah, strange.
But they absolutely nailed the look of the house and everything. Like every single shot with the house is actually like really good, in my opinion
Yeah,
at
the
least.
house's movements are incredible. Even the inside of the house is interesting with the anatomy, the windows, the eyes somehow being able to look inside of itself.
Yeah.
I can look past that. But everything, I mean, it's got legs and arms and uh, supposed digestive system.
Yeah, I'm not
Now
entirely sure how it works.
the liquid or acid or whatever only really showed up when the uvula was disturbed.
Hmm. They did fall like where they fell. It didn't. I don't know if it's. I don't think like it totally all actually fits together if you realistically put it in a place. And
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know where
people
like the
like
people get eaten and end up, but we're
yeah.
looking a little bit into it. So
The people seem to disappear somewhere.
but not totally sure where. But I like especially talking about inside the house, the colors. As when like the house is alive, like the greens and yellows and stuff actually look really cool. The lighting is really good for like the time.
It's pretty dynamic. I mean, it doesn't look flat or anything like that. It looks like it's very much there with the characters.
And then so we're getting pretty close to the end here. But so we'll get into what your final review for this would be. Like you can rate it out of like 10 or like I don't know, however you wanna your own review scheme might be.
Okay. I don't know. Should I don't. I kind of want to just give it a 10 out of 10.
I mean, you're totally okay with that.
10 out of 10 plus. I think it's safe to say that the gothic theme claims this movie over anything else. And there's gothic horror, gothic humor.
Yeah.
It kind of, it can claim pretty much any piece of film or literature if you try hard enough with definitions.
Yeah, like I kind of had to try really hard to fit this into the hero's journey. So if you try hard enough, anything's possible. It just works.
Exactly.
And then
I think 10 out of 10 movie.
10 out of 10 movie? Okay.
Yeah.
I can respect that. And then, all right, the hardest question to ask anyone on the spot. What are some of your favorite movies?
Some of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Doesn't
have to be just one. It can be like 3 or 5 or whatever comes off the top of the head.
Lobster,
Okay.
Patterson. I think it's called Ghost Story. Casey Affleck as the fucking ghost.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah. And I can't think of anything else quick enough, but
That's
yeah,
okay.
Those are 3
Three's
really
good.
good movies.
Just gives you a feel for stuff that you like. Because I've got a wide variety of people saying a lot of wide different stuff that have enjoyed the movie. So
Yeah,
got a wide
I would
audience.
suggest those movies.
All
They're
right.
all pretty slow, but
That's okay. I mean, when you have a movie like this that's like an hour and a half and ramps up within the last 10 minutes of the movie, it's nice to have something that plays out for a little bit longer.
yeah.
All right, so we're pretty much at the end of it. Did you have any last words you wanted to say?
Thanks for having me, and thanks for bringing Monster House back into all of our lives.
The real Monster House was within us the whole time.
Exactly.
All right, so we'll call it there. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you so much for coming on, Liam. I know it's been a long time coming, and I kind of am squeezing in people getting a little bit close to the end here, but I'm getting at everyone I can. So I hope you had fun discussing this movie a little bit more in depth than maybe it should be, but it still counts.
That's great. Keep it up.
Perfect. All right, I'll see you guys.